Everyone knows the opening guitar part of the track Enter Sandman, but the usual story goes that it was just a stroke of midnight genius from Kirk Hammett. The actual events are a bit more specific, as Hammett reportedly wrote the part at 3 in the morning after spending the day listening to Soundgarden's album Louder Than Love. He was aiming to write something with a heavy, bouncy groove that could rival Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water. However, the version Hammett originally played was chunkier and far less catchy. It only became the massive hook we know today because drummer Lars Ulrich suggested that Hammett repeat the first section of the riff 3 times before playing the heavier chords. And here's the thing about the song's famous lyrics, they almost ruined the track completely. James Hetfield initially wrote the words about sudden infant death syndrome, going so far as to include a line about disrupting the perfect family instead of the famous lyric about going off to Never Never Land. Their producer Bob Rock and Ulrich actually had to sit Hetfield down and tell him that the lyrics were too literal and simply not good enough. Depending on who you believe, Hetfield was furious at being challenged, but he eventually rewrote the words to focus on childhood nightmares and the frightening stories adults tell kids to put them to bed. And the studio environment was a complete mess during the creation of this track and the rest of the album. Rock forced the band to record their parts playing together in one room, rather than tracking everything individually as they had done on their past records. And this caused significant friction, with Hammett struggling to play solos live and Hetfield earning the nickname Dr. No for instantly rejecting the producer's ideas. The situation was so stressful that the band jokingly gave the album the working title of Married to Metal, a grimly ironic choice considering Ulrich, Hammett, and bassist Jason Newsted all went through divorces during the 9 months it took to finish the record. Which is where the story gets even more messy, because after the song became a massive radio hit, listeners noticed it sounded remarkably similar to a track called Tapping Into the Emotional Void by a crossover thrash band named Excel. Excel's song was released 2 years prior, and heavy metal radio stations began playing both tracks side by side to highlight the resemblance. Metallica's co-manager Cliff Bernstein claimed he had never heard the Excel track and called the situation a pure coincidence. The funny part is that Bernstein also managed the band Infectious Grooves, which happened to feature Excel's lead guitarist Adam Siegel. Excel ultimately decided not to sue at the time because they felt a legal battle would drain their energy, though former Metallica guitarist Dave Mustaine later publicly accused his old band of stealing the music. The song pushed the band to their absolute breaking points and sparked persistent plagiarism claims that never entirely vanished. It remains a fascinating piece of rock history that proves their biggest commercial victory was a genuinely chaotic and difficult process.